Now, the Prime Minister's facing a revolt from Conservative MPs over plans to criminalise homelessness that forms part of the government's flagship crime bill. Under proposals due to be voted on by MPs before the general election, ministers intend to give police the powers to fine or move on nuisance rough sleepers. Well, that proposal has infuriated dozens of Conservative MPs on both the left and the right of the party who've warned the whips, look, I'm not going to vote against those measures. I'm not going to vote for them. It's part of the criminal justice bill, which is going through the House of Commons. Well, joining me now is criminal defence lawyer at Hodge Jones, Alan Raj Chadha. Thank you so much for your time, Raj. I think there's so many issues to get into with this. First of all, is in practice, if this bill was passed, how would it work? Because it's defining anyone who would be deemed to be a nuisance. And some of these Conservative MPs who said, I'm not going to vote for it, are saying, well, that is far too broad.
Well, it's a morally repugnant piece of proposed legislation. Nuisance is defined in one of a number of ways, which could be sleeping on a doorway, having an excessive smell, or even looking like you are going to rough sleep. So it doesn't even mean to be somebody that is rough sleeping, but somebody that, in the judgment of a police officer or a council worker, is perceived as if they might rough sleep. And the relevant police officer can give a notice or a direction, and if the individual fails to comply with that, they commit a criminal offence.
And the fine suggested, I mean, it's £2,500. You'd think the kind of logic's gone wrong here, presumably. You know, these are the most vulnerable people who you'd assume don't have £2,500, or they wouldn't be sleeping out on the street.
£2,500 or a month in prison is the punishment stipulated in the legislation. At a time when the criminal justice system is on its knees, we are at absolute capacity in the courts. We have about 1,000 places left in prison, and judges have been encouraged to use non-custodial sentences. The government comes up with a system like this. What in heaven's name are they doing?
It was a manifesto promise, actually, in 2019 that the Conservatives said they would end rough sleeping. And I think it's caused surprise and alarm with some of the public and clearly some Conservative MPs that the idea that they were going to do that by criminalising or arresting people rough sleeping rather than providing them with homes, with accommodation, with help. I think that the part of the reason the Conservatives were going down this line initially, and this certainly was son of Suella Braverman's motivation, I believe, was that we do have a small proportion of people who are out on the streets, maybe begging, who are part of organised criminal gangs. Yeah. Does the law not already exist, Raj? It would be good to understand that would already deal with that sort of criminal activity.
There is. There's a myriad of different types of legislation that can deal with this problem, from antisocial behaviour legislation that's already in force to even the Fraud Act if somebody is begging but doing it through organised crime. And really, resources need to be given to the police to investigate in that way for criminals behind these people, rather than criminalising those that are suffering.
In your sort of mind here, what do you think actually has gone wrong? You just mentioned police resource. That could be part of the problem, isn't it? That maybe there isn't enough people actually targeting this, dealing with it, which is why the government have taken this extremely broad brush approach to say, right, well, if we see this and it's a nuisance, we're going to say, right, that's against the law.
Well, rough sleeping has gone up 67% in 10 years. So since broadly we have the start of austerity, that's an astonishing figure. And what we need to concentrate on is helping individuals that may be finding it difficult at that particular moment in their life, rather than criminalising them. And the real issue about rough sleeping at the minute then is preventative. And so, yes, you're absolutely right. Police need to be properly resourced to deal with issues, but the people that need to be resourced the best are the local authorities and the charities that will deal with this problem.
Can you actually see this becoming law?
No, I think it's a kite that's flown a bit high and has gone on a bit long, but it's a Suella Braverman piece of legislation. I hope that they're not going to carry it on. And I think, as you mentioned in your last item, it's designed to deal with politics, not designed to deal with actual problems.
How much is your role as criminal defence lawyer do you feel like actually politics is playing quite a significant role in your job rather than, you know, defending the people that you'd like to?
It's really frustrating because you used to have the mantra that we're interested in what works and that there would be policy based on research on things that could actually solve problems. But more and more it's about rhetoric and cheap headlines in the tabloid press. And you know, the proof is in the pudding. Do we feel safer? Is crime going down? Is rough sleeping going down? None of those things are happening, despite more and more draconian legislation, despite continued crackdowns. And what we need is public services that operate properly, public services that help people, and a criminal justice system that's properly funded.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would echo the concerns that you have. One of the challenges, I think, for police currently, as the law stands, is actually having the resource to be able to differentiate who is someone who's genuinely in desperate need and who is someone part of a, you know, when it's their job almost to go out. And we've talked about this on this channel
Well,
many
they
times.
used to have they used to have what was called target and tasking joint patrols between local councils and police officers and council officers that got to know the homeless population and the rough sleeping population and knew what was going on. But all of that joint working really doesn't work anymore. It's easy at times to say the solution is funding, but at times you've got to be honest and say that it is.